Hey guys, it's me, Wilson, and we're back for another video on F1 2021. We're here for round I don't know, or no, actually, it's a social race in PSGL, so it's not a round. And yeah, I should probably explain that before we get into it. So pretty much, um, if you don't know what desync is, it's been pretty much infesting the game recently, and it's pretty much where you can't see a car on your screen, but they can see you, for example. So let's say somebody's going into a corner, I send them. I can see them, but they can't see me, so they just take their normal line. I blow up, and they literally nothing happens to them because they can't see me. So it's essentially like that. If you ever watched the Monza PSGL race, it was my first PC race actually. It's exactly that, and pretty much it infested the game pretty badly recently. And Codemasters or Dan Hawkins, the esports coordinator, has gave us a new build to try and to see if it works. So we're doing a test race here. That's the reason PSGL's not been on recently. From what I know, it should be back on next week on Wednesday, 7 p.m. But yeah, this is a test race pretty much. Still got a lot of the tier 1 drivers, quite a few tier 2 though, joining us, as not all tier 1 drivers showed up, as it's just a social race. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I've not drove in a race since Challengers. Also lowered my wheel rotation for this week's race, just because I kind of thought I wanted to try some new things. Challenges is over. I've been meaning to change to lower wheel rotation recently, but I've just not had the time because obviously Challengers, it was pretty important, and I don't want to, I didn't want to mess my rhythm up and everything. But yeah, nevertheless, we're just in Q1 now, just doing our medium lap. Nothing too crazy. But as I said, yeah, I did lower the wheel rotation, so you see I'm turning a little bit less on in real life, you could say, and it's turning more in the game. So it's a bit difficult to get used to. You find yourself turning a little bit too much sometimes, but I think if you get used to it, it's much quicker. So that's my reasoning behind that. But yeah, we're just on our medium lap right now. As you know, I done this track for Challengers, so we're pretty glued in. I just used the same setup and thought, yeah, let's just not change anything. Yeah, let's have some fun. It's only a social race. Hopefully we can do well. Obviously, I'd rather do well than bad. But, yeah, we'll just have to see what happens. I think we'll do decent, as I did practice this track quite a lot for Challengers. So did a lot of the esports guys for esports. But that mine was a bit more recent, to be fair. And yeah, I did take about a week break before hopping back on the game for this social race. So a little bit rusty, but not too much excuses to go off of apart from the wheel rotation and that. But nevertheless, we start our Q1 run now. Going into turn 1, slamming on the brakes at the 100-meter board. Grip is pretty low at this point in the Q1 session, and we actually invalidate our first run in Q1. So that's not ideal. It's probably a bit better if we get a run in this time, because Mexico messing up laps is a bit of a pain, as we nearly block the Ferrari there. Who's my teammate? Norbert. Whatever Ferrari that was, I don't know who it was. I've got name tags off. Whatever Ferrari that was, I am very sorry. I did not mean that. Just on a cool down lap here, we're trying to cool the tyres down. You can do 2 laps at Mexico, so we're pretty lucky in that sense, as the first sector is pretty brutal around here. In the sense of RNG. On the second lap, your tyres don't die too much. It's mainly the final sector that your tyres really start to go off here. So that's really where we're going to struggle, I'd imagine. So that's what I noticed in practice, at least for Challengers, as I've done quite a lot of laps for that. And in the S section a little bit. But the first sector and the slow speed isn't too bad on a low set of tyres. So starting, hopefully, our final Q1 lap. I don't really want to go again here, because I'd rather just get through in 1 set to Q2, not have to use 2 sets to get through to Q2. That'd be slightly embarrassing. But starting this final run here, we're brake just at the 100-meter board, almost parallel to the lap before. We're going to take it pretty safe through this first section here. We do it pretty safe. I think that's going to be a mid-2 first sector, which is by no means good at all. People are doing 0.9s in the first. So we go through this first sector. It is pretty much a mid-0.2 Do a slow speed, we do it very well, turning a little bit too much for that first bit, but all right through here. Then the double right-hander, we lock up a little bit and go wide, and that's not very helpful. That Ferrari distracting us a little bit. Then going through this X section here, we're going to have to fling it in. We do that extremely nicely, very on the limit right there. And then going through this fast X section. Can we nail this? Yes, we just about do, barely in the track for most of that section, pretty much on the curb for most of it. Then going into the final sector, it's a high 0.1 split, which is not great at all. Can we nail this final sector? We need a good final sector here. We get a very nice rotation here, going into this final left-hander, then that right-hander, then coming into this last corner. We do that very nicely as well. Double up shift to 5th, and then through the final corner. Is it going to be enough for Q2? And it looks like it is. It's P2 in the board with 4 minutes to go. And it was 13,000 off Yarno. And at the end of the session, we go P4. A few people went out for final runs, which definitely helps. Wise, I think Jordan, I'm not too sure. I think Jordan might have went out again. Jordan sectors. And a few other people. But Yarno actually done a 0.9 first, I believe. If you look there momentarily, 981. We done a 227, which just emphasises how bad our first sector was. But nevertheless, we move on to Q2. Finishing our first lap in Q2. It is on an old set of tyres. That's a 0.9 low, which isn't too bad. I think Jake done a 0.7 on an old set of Q1 tyres. So we're about a tenth and a half off what Jake done, which isn't too bad. Our lap didn't feel too bad. So we're definitely in contention for pole here, which I don't think is too much of a surprise, considering we did this for challengers. So didn't really need to learn the track again or anything. Nevertheless, we're on to our final Q2 run, hopefully. We don't want to do 2 runs on these tyres, as these are the tyres we'll be starting on, so we want the least amount of wear as possible. So we're going to go fairly safe, but I've got a little bit more confidence into this first sector here after that first banker there, and we do that very nicely. I think that's going to be a high 0.0, if I'm not wrong, which isn't too bad. That's definitely much better than their first sector in Q1. That's over a tenth quicker by a lot than our first. But going through here very nicely, turning a little bit too much for that second part, showing that the lower wheel rotation really coming into play there. We're not too used to it yet, but into this fast X section now. Can we do it nicely? Very nicely there, on the limit through this fast X section as well. As I said, you're pretty much barely on the track through this whole section. You're on the curbs through the whole thing. It's just the nature of the game. They have quite a lot of grips, so you may as well use them. Now going into this final section, we're 2 tenths up in our Q1 split, a 0.9 high. Do that fairly nicely. Do we do this bit nicely? We do it very nicely. Flipping that inside curb, taking a lot of inside curb here, bouncing all over it into the final corner now. We do that very nicely too. And it's been a pretty tidy lap. I think it's going to be a 0.5 coming up to the line. And it's a 0.583. And that's definitely going to be enough to get through to Q3. 9 hundredths off of Yarno, who done a 0.4. And yeah, pretty tidy lap from us. Pretty close ground. The cutoff was actually pretty slow though, as it dropped off pretty aggressively as we got to the end of the top 10. So we didn't really need an exceptional lap to get through, but nevertheless, we done a good lap. And now we're into Q3. We do have 2 fresh sets of tyres waiting for us, so we're in a very lucky position here. And I wasn't too sure when to go out, but knowing me, every time I have 2 fresh sets of tyres, I always mess up the first run. Yep, and there we go. We messed up the first run. Who would have guessed? We messed up actually the first run on these tyres. We went again, and we messed it up again. So it's not ideal. Who would have thought? We were just the bottle master at this point. I don't know what it is. Every time I do my first run in Q3, I never hook it up. Like, it's always horrible. Even if I have a fresh set. I don't know why, but yeah, we've got to kind of ignore that. But going into our final run of Q3, we pretty much got to nail this run, as we've got a 19.2 on the board, which I'm not going to lie, I think that's going to be 10th, unless someone else messes up as well. But yeah, we can back out of this run if we need to, but I'd rather just get it done and not really put the pressure on us for one final lap. But going into turn 1 now, we're going to brake just at the 100-meter mark, slam onto the brakes, down to 3rd gear. We're going to hold 3rd gear through this whole section, take a lot of inside curb, take a lot of inside curb there as well, up to 5th gear. And that's a pretty good first sector, I think. I think it's going to be a 0.0, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to find out. Now, if you look at the top right hand of our screen, it's a 0.0 again into that first sector. Do we do this section nicely? We do it fairly well, turning a little bit too much for that first part again, but it's not too bad. This double right-hander, we take an early apex, up to 4th gear, then through this next left-hander. Can we nail this section? Flinging it in 5th gear, up to 6th, taking a lot of inside curb through this whole section, then through this right-hander, take it very well, turning a little bit too much through there again, but opening the DRS now, rattling down to turn sector 3 even. It's a 0.9 split, which isn't great at all, but we can make it work. Into this last sector, we need a good last sector for a time to challenge for pole. We do it very nicely, getting lots of rotation off of these curves into the last corner. We do that fairly nicely, a little bit wide though, and that's going to cost us time. That's cost us a little bit too much time. Up to the line is a 0.466, and that last corner definitely lost us at least about, I'd say, 300s, which is a bit of a pain, but who knows, will it even change our qualifying position, as Luke just done a 0.3, and that's kind of what I expected. I actually expected the pole to be a little bit quicker, but thankfully for us it wasn't, and as you can see, for momentarily there, we're actually P2 in the grid. Luke Smith about a 10th quicker than us. We didn't really hook up the lap, and yeah, you can just see our last sector was a little bit off. We should really be doing 0.4s in the last, but even with a 0.4 last, I think we would have just been off Luke. But yeah, P2, not too bad. The only worry now is the launch to turn 1. We need to get something pretty exceptional here, as the cars behind are actually going to have a tow from us. And yeah, I won't have anything unless I get a mediocre start, and then I can sit behind Luke and tow up to turn 1. That was kind of the plan. But I'm not going to try and get a bad start or anything, obviously. I'm just going to give it my best shot and just hope everything works out. You never really try and get a poor start. And yeah, so let's hope. Just waiting for the back markers to finish up the grid now, and my starts haven't been too good recently, so we're hoping for something pretty lightning here. Hopefully the reaction times are on point, but nevertheless, we've got 1 red light, 2 red light, 3 red light, 4 red light, 5 red light, and away we go. Do we get a good start? Very good reaction time from us off the start line, and we get a very, very good start compared to Luke Smith and the cars behind. We're rattling down to turn 1 now. I think we're going to be safe from any other car behind us. Going into turn 1, we just need to fend off Luke. We're going to brake pretty late, go pretty deep into this corner, try and make sure Luke doesn't go round right side. We do take it pretty deep. We're going to miss this inside curve for the first lap. We do that very nicely, and then through sector 1 now. We're going to hold that P1. Luke Smith 3 times back, and it looks like we've held it in this first lap, and we've got the lead. It's not necessarily a great thing though around this track. We're just going to try and keep this lead and not use too much ERS, but I did notice throughout this race as we went on, we actually lost ERS without even touching it, so it's definitely going to make life a lot more difficult going into the second phase of this race. Going into lap 2 now though, we're 8/10ths clear of Luke Smith at this point. Jarno 1.7 seconds back, 1.8, so Luke's nearly cleared Jarno of a second. Coming out in this final corner, it's nearly 9/10ths the gap coming out of the final corner, and we're really spreading the field. You can't see the map right now as my face is covering it due to high demand because I was covering my MFD, but we've actually broke DRS to Christoph in P4. DRS hasn't started yet, but we broke it, so the pace is really good at the front, and it's really helping us. It's pretty crucial we build a pretty big gap. We didn't push with DRS, but we definitely had good pace as we move on to lap 7 now. Nothing's really happened, and you can see the gap behind. Jarno's still in the train, Luke's still in the train obviously, but Jake and Daniele Haddad, they've been fighting, swapping places, trying to catch up. They're still out of DRS right now, and that's pretty crucial for our race. It just gives us a little bit more flexibility when everyone's not in the train. You kind of have a little bit more freedom in what you want to do with the strategy, and it just makes life a little bit more calm. And I'm sure the guys in P2 and P3, they are not complaining as well. It makes their life a lot easier. So everyone's happy in the top 3. It'll be P4 and P5, which are quite angry with that. We got allowed to break DRS. But moving on to lap 11 now. If you look in your top left hand of your screen, Jake Benham actually pits. And I saw that, and I think that was going to be the trigger for quite a lot of people coming into the pits now. And we've got Luke Smith behind us, so I was expecting them to pit at the end of this lap. So now we're coming to the end of this lap. Let's see if Luke Smith does pit. We're coming around this final stadium section. The tyres actually felt still pretty good. They didn't feel too bad. So I was pretty confident we could go for one more and not get undercut too big. Luke Smith, he is 8/10ths back. He pits from P2, and Jarno Otmir, he's behind us. He's going to have DRS down this straight, so he's going to close in quite rapidly. But we need a pretty good in-lap here. It's pretty crucial we get a good in-lap here, and hopefully Luke Smith doesn't jump us too much. I don't mind him jumping me, but as long as we're just behind him and we're still in DRS, I'm not complaining, as I need to save DRS as it's pretty low. Not really been using at all, really. And we're still losing as I use a little bit there, but that's because we're coming into the pits. Yarno still has DRS on us, so he's gaining quite a lot into this second sector now. We really need to nail this. The tires are starting to go off slightly. It's a pretty decent first sector though for old tires. You can see the front scrubbing quite a lot there into this double right-hander. You can see tires getting a little bit lazy. Everything's starting to take a little bit longer than it did before into this left-hander. We take that very nicely. It's a pretty crucial lap. It's not been a bad in lap though. It's been pretty strong to a sec session. Can we nail this? And we do it pretty nicely. A little bit of understeer through it, but we're actually pulling on Yarno slightly there. So it's not been a bad in-lap at all, really. I'd say it's been pretty good. I don't think it could have been too much better unless we drained our ERS. But coming into the final section now, can we nail this into the final corner? It's pretty good. So we're going to come into the pits now and just hope Luke Smith does not jump us by a major amount. We take the pit lane fairly safe as Yarno actually continues. My thinking there was he wanted to do another lap as he gets the double DRS now, and he can just blast it and not lose too much. But we'll see what he goes on to do furthermore on the race. But now, I would say look at the map. You can't look at the map. We're going to have to look when we come out the pits. We're looking for Luke Smith in the Williams. You can see he's in P12 there, just behind us, net P1. And he comes out a fair distance amount ahead of us. Can we get just into his slip there? We're trying to get into his slip. The slip isn't really effective in this game from 1 second plus. And he's 1.2 seconds ahead of us. And another issue now is his tyres are pretty much heated up, which doesn't help, and he's got a lot more ERS than us because he was sitting in DRS, so it's going to be pretty tough to catch up to him. Jake Benham gets in our DRS, and come around the final corner now. Can we get into Luke Smith? Luke Smith's DRS, it's lap 14, and we just miss out on it, and at this point I'm below 10%, so I thought, let's just blast it. You can see we get into it, and you might think, you're going to have DRS for the next straight. Well, no, because that next straight's detection point is at the start of I think it's the last corner or something. So coming through here, we're not going to get DRS at all, which is going to make our life even more tough. And he's got probably a lot more ERS than us now. We've got pretty much nothing. And as you can see, we're 9/10ths within, but we didn't get anything. But now, lap 15, same lap, we actually close in a lot more, 2-3/10ths-ish, and we get the DRS. And now it's very crucial we save this ERS, because as you can see, there's a lot of back markers coming up, and whoever gets through them the quickest has a very good chance of winning this race, depending how messy it gets. So we're just going to try and use our ERS as least impossible. As you can see, Luke Smith is flashing now, so he must have been pushing quite a lot to give us out. If you look in the bottom right-hand of the screen there momentarily, we're actually lifting and coasting just to save ERS a little bit. It does help very minimally, but every little helps at this point in the race. Now, we've now got a Red Bull ahead of us of Jonah Martins, I believe it is. I think he's an F2 driver. But nevertheless, hopefully he doesn't put too much a fight up. He does have 9 seconds of penalties, so it's not going great for him. But we're going to use our ERS now, rattling down to turn 1, and he's going to let us by pretty nicely. He doesn't really put up a fight, so thank you, Jonah Martins. I think that's his name. It cuts off. But yeah, thank you for not fighting if you're watching it. But that does put us below 10% again using that ERS, so it's very quickly how it goes. It just goes as soon as you use it. But next up is Alessio Di Capua. Can we get him down the straight? Is he going to have DRS? No, he is not, because the detection point is at that last corner. Are we going to send it down? Alessio's inside. Yes, we do. Break just after the 100-meter board, and we do it pretty nicely. He doesn't really fight it, and it makes our life much easier. And now we're pretty much comfortably in Luke Smith's DRS still, and that's making life a lot easier. We are trying to gain ERS, but there's not too much we can do at this moment. But now my thinking was, I think at this point I was thinking maybe we should pass Luke, because there is lapped cars up ahead, but I have a feeling, looking in hindsight, that they're going to pit, and at this point I wasn't thinking it, and I saw him flash and I thought we may as well go for it, so I go for the move down the inside, and that was a very bad judgment for me, as these lap cars, if you look in the top left hand of your screen, there's only 16 laps to go, and softs can do 16 laps, as Yarno proved that by doing, I think he done like 17 or something. He went crazy long, which I haven't mentioned yet. He's quite a bit back after going much longer than all of us. But we now move on to lap 21, and a lot of these lap cars are starting to pit. But now Luke Smith looks like he's going for the move. Jake Benham's going for the move as well. We dart to the inside. Can we defend from any of them? We're not going to have DRS. That's going to make our life extremely tricky. Try to go round the outside of Luke Smith. He's boxed us in there. We got a warning. That's 2 warnings this race. We don't have DRS, and there's no point in even trying to use the ERS to fight Jake. Jake is flashing as well, and yeah. I saw them coming from quite a bit back. I could have used DRS, but but I think they would have got me anyway. So I didn't really see the point in using the RS because we have to save. I mean, it's very crucial to save right now, as we've got Daniele Haddad behind us as well, and he's caught up from being out of this train actually, and that just shows how slow we're going right now as we lift and coast into these corners to save a bit of ERS. But moving on to lap 27 now, Daniele Haddad is pretty close. This front train's going really slow right now. I think that's mainly because Jake is trying to just sit behind as Daniele Haddad is going for an attack. He's trying to move up the grid, and we turn on our ERS momentarily. We give Jake a little bit to think about. Can we dive it down the inside? We have a little look, just trying to make Jake do something. We're sitting in third. We're in the worst place possible right now. We can't really do much. And yeah, we're just trying to give Jake something to think about, really. There's not too much we can do in this position as we try and defend from Daniele Haddad. He's really putting on the burners right here. That makes Jake defend. And we're going to try and go round the outside now at this turn 4, which starts to the inside. Can we make it work? Now Daniele Haddad is on our inside. We have to move to the right a little bit to defend them, and we defend pretty nicely, but this is using a lot of our ERS, which I mentioned before is very hard to save. But we move on to the end of lap 33. We've pretty much got 100% ERS right now, and at this point Jake's has 100, but Luke Smith, he has nothing. He's leading. He couldn't gain anything, which shows the importance of being P2. I think even P3 is better than P1 at this point, but we'd now turn on the ERS. I saw Daniele Haddad trying to attack me, and I thought, you know what, we may as well go for it now. There's 2 laps to go. Let's just send. I used enough ERS by this point. We have to do something, so we're just going to keep our ERS button on till the whole end of this straight. We're going to make it 3 wide. We dart to the right-hand side of turn 1. We break very late, later than Jake Benham and Luke Smith. Can we make anything move on Luke or on Jake? We make it stick on Luke. We can't do anything in Jake as he defends it pretty nicely. Jake's going to have the RS as well, and that looks like it's going to be us P2 going into the final 2 laps. Can we make anything work of it? I'm pretty sure at this point Jake has a lot more ERS than us. I think he has maybe 20% more, so it's going to be pretty difficult. It's not your usual scenario of just sit in the toe and catch up to him, because he has a lot of ERS and it pretty much balances out that slipstream and DRS effect. But nevertheless, on to the last lap. Jake is 5/10 ahead. It doesn't look like we're going to be able to do anything. The front tires are screaming at this point, and it looks like it's going to be P2 on track. But if you look on the top left hand of your screen, Jake actually has a 3 seconds, so it's going to be P1 after penalties. Our first PSGL race in quite a while. We're going to come up to line. It's been a pretty good race. We've got Daniele Haddad behind us, Jorn Opmeer in 4th, but we're going to take the win. Jake Benham drops down the order. It's Daniele Haddad P2, Jorn Opmeer P3. Luke Smith, who started and pulled down to P4 after that battle into turn 1, he lost out quite a lot, and that's P1 for us, which is a very good result. I mean, you can't get better than that, and I'm pretty happy with that. Pretty happy with how lowering the wheel rotation went as well. It was a better race than I thought, considering we just lowered it, and I'll take it any day of the week. We were lacking a little bit at the end of the race there, the last 2 laps or so, to really have a fight on Jake, but I was turning too much throughout the race, so my front tyres were really scrubbed, and I just had so much understeer. Plus, he had quite a lot of ERS, so it made it pretty difficult to make the move on track. But nevertheless, enough of the complaining. We got P1, and it's actually our first race win in or on PC on PSGL. We have won in other things, but on PC and PSGL, it's our first race win. So a nice wee confidence boost, and we'll definitely take that into the rest of the season. But if you guys have enjoyed this video, please leave a like. I'll be uploading next week, hopefully, PSGL Singapore, which is scheduled to happen, I believe. There was no desync in this race, so it's a good sign. But if you guys have enjoyed this video, please subscribe, leave a like, comment, all that stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.